Hey, black women. I just wanted to start my series. I told you guys I was going to start this September. Um, Today, I want to talk about the very thing that really is a issue for me. I think it is like one of my biggest idiosyncrasies when I hear this gender nonsense online, where these dudes are always talking about how they want to lead women and they are demanded submission, which is so problematic on so many fronts because they're very dangerous, they're very violent, they're sexually capricious and sexually deviant. You can't trust them around children, your teenagers. They can't be in the house with you. They're violent, they're chaotic, and it causes trauma, right? So I want to talk about a lot of the things and the ways it affects black women and what we should consider and how we begin to change the way we think so that we stop dealing with them completely and having them in our lives so they can no longer disrupt our lives, our progress as a collective. And hopefully one day we'll get to the point where there are no more pick-me's in this world. Because those women are so dangerous to little girls and other women. It is insane. If I could only tell y'all what I heard tonight on the live, oh my God. It was so disturbing and scary. I had to go to this lady's page to make sure she didn't have no little girl children. Lord. All right, so trauma, as we know, affects the mind and the body in many different ways, right? Trauma is literally caused by a systematic effort that affects society and our bodies, right? And when I say that, I mean it in a way where collectively it affects all of us. It is a persistent way that you think about doing things. It's a persistent way that things are done. It's also kind of like a society-wide kind of like brainwashing in a sense, right? Think about when dudes say, when these black dudes online say they have a preference, right? When they're trying to shame and blame black women and make black women feel bad so they could get in a position to use you like a doormat. They'll say things like, I have a preference for white, Hispanic, whatever the case may be, right? But the reality is they don't really have a preference, right? Because all of this is like a form of population control. It's media widespread way to make people believe and bend over to another group of people's will. Because think about what I'm saying. Every day in society, you have white women on television, movies, online, etc. We all know that they're not attractive. They mostly are very bad looking in the face. Their skin is horrible, and their bodies are very boyish, right? Unless they have all of this cosmetic and added on surgery to make them look like black women, right? So they're not attractive. But you're constantly brainwashed and you've been indoctrinated since slavery into thinking that they're superior, they're great, they're beautiful, right? This is a form of trauma as well because it is literally socializing people to think that because I say something is real when it's not, and I'm going to put it all around you to make you believe in it, this is what happens. And this is part of socialization. It's a way to take away your ability to validate yourself, right? So in dealing with this, right, we as women have to learn to like go through a sort of like internalized validation where we appreciate ourselves for who we are, what we are, how we look, while we are constantly observing and recognizing in real time now, right? All of these things I just spoke about that are happening around us that were literally conditioned into society for like one collective thought for something that is totally wrong. But ultimately, it adds up with several other things systematically to get you to behave a certain way, to be a certain way, think a certain way, and limit your progress the same way. So I have been doing a lot of like reading lately, and I've been trying to change the way I personally think about things. So I decided to share like a lot of the stuff I learned. So hopefully one day we can all collectively use these different things to get out of the situations we're in right now. Because it's like black women are like going in a circle. Like, we can get educated, we can build ourselves up, we can move up in society as long as we don't have administrations tearing us down the way they did recently with taking away 350,000 jobs from black women. We can do all of those things to get us in the positions where we need to be without other people trying to knock us back down. But the place that we always lose is in the case where we have too many black women that want to keep a loyalty to black males, always want to bring them along, and always trying to include them in black women's progress and whatever type of resiliency we have in staying above water, keeping our heads above water. Like, we really need to stop that, because we already blatantly know they will not care about anything that happens to black women. As a matter of fact, they revel in us being hurt and us not having opportunities and having our rights and our freedom of ourselves lessened. They're happy about us suffering. So all this type of stuff I'm talking about, I've learned is called cognitive distortions. And they're just basically biased ways of thinking that twist how you interpret events, right? It's often automatically negative, right? And inaccurate. But it feels real true, right? And it's because when you're having these thoughts, you don't stop to think about steps or ways to give the thought evidence or evidentiary support, right? So you begin to stress, right? And when you stress, I found out that it's like 4 different steps to stress. You have the catastrophizing, or how do you say the word right? Catastrophizing. Then you have the all or none thinking. It's either good or bad. That right there gives you no growth, and it's all about self-blame or another person trying to blame you and shame you. Then you have the mind reading stance when you stress, right? Which a lot of us do, because I do this one a lot. Like, you think you know what somebody else is thinking, and most times, once again, it's going to be something negative about you. So, like, if a person is smirking at you, looking at you funny, instead of you taking the time to say, is there something wrong? Or is there a problem? What's happening? Did I do something? Or did I miss something that happened? You know, you automatically start thinking, oh, well, this person is probably doing that because of me, or whatever the case may be. And it's never a positive thing. It's always a negative thing. And the reason I'm saying these things to y'all, right, is because once we start realizing the way we think about stuff, and this is another way to process thoughts or thought process, then we get away from always having to interact with these dudes that are always detrimental to us and always causing us problems in life and in our existence in this country. The last step to the stress steps is going to be the personalization. And personalization is when you take responsibility for things you don't own. Okay? So you see how we know being pick-me's are offensive and they're a problem? A lot of times, right, women will take ownership over those women. Where I've done it too. I've done it most recently in a video where I said we need to not just claim them, but we need to consider them, because they're raising little girls and they have the huge ability to put little girls in harm's way. You know, these are the mothers that know that their daughters are being molested, and they call a little girl fast and say it's her fault. and they never put any responsibility on the grown adult at all. So none of this is bad that I'm talking about. It's just things that I think that if we really going to move forward as black women, we got to begin to isolate a lot of these things that we think about every day. That does make a difference in how we move, how we do things, how we think about things, how we accomplish them, how we either share or gatekeep from other black women. A lot of this stuff is things that we really just have to start like grappling with our feelings, right? And the behavior that comes from our feelings. It's just, we don't have to believe every thought in our head. Sometimes every thought in our head needs to be scrutinized. We need to think about, why did I think about it that way? Could I have thought about it another way? Or should I have done this instead of that? And if I should have done this or that, at least think about three good reasons why you should have for each way. And then that way you can determine which one would have been the better guess or better thing to do, right? So I'm starting to learn to do this, right? And this whole thing, like I told you, is called internal validation, right? So you remember, guys, I had told you that I watched like all these different black psychiatrists, and I subscribe to Psychology Today. I'm starting to read these different books I went to buy in reference to like changing the whole way I think. Because as I'm getting older, right, I'm thinking about things where I'm trying to do several things, accomplish several things at one time. And I'm getting sort of like bogged down in my own brain because I'm doubting myself. And I'm also thinking that, oh, you just can't literally do all of that at one time. So I need to understand how to utilize internal validation so I can stop myself from repeating some of the same things that stops my progress. And so I want to share these things with you all because I know for a fact, without arguing with women about this, because I see it every day and every night on TikTok and YouTube, the lives between black women and these black males, where black women are always trying to justify their position to these dudes when it is just so easy to just say, I'm not dealing with this completely. Turn off all that energy towards that and start focusing on that internalized validation. And believe me, as I'm starting to do this and I'm learning more and more about this, I feel much freer every time I wake up in the morning. I feel like literally lighter and more energetic, and I feel happier. And also, you cannot deny me my worth. Like, there would be days before I started doing this, I would wake up, I'd be like, I wouldn't say depressed, but not as happy with things as I should be. Took a lot of stuff for granted and dismissed things that was important. I also want to tell y'all that as I've been reading a lot about this internalized validation, I've learned so many medical things, y'all, that make a difference in black women's lives. Because when we talked about stress, the 4 steps of stress a little while ago, that stress brings upon health issues when you don't deal with them individually, right? So I found out that one of the first things you could do when you're working on your internalized validation and breaking down the 4 steps of stress, the simplest thing you do when you wake up in the morning is to drink water. At least 2 or 3 glasses of water, right? Now you have to temper the water yourself depending on how you go to the bathroom with your body, how long of a travel you have from home to work or wherever you go when you wake up first thing in the morning, right? So you be the best judge of that. But the reason you want to drink this water is that I found out the more hydrated your brain is, that's number 1, right? It makes your thinking clearer. It also puts off the chances of you having Alzheimer's older in life, right? Or even for the few people that get the early onset, right? but it keeps your body hydrated so your organs function the way they're supposed to. And with black women, a lot of us struggle from heart disease, the number one thing. And then the second thing is, like, I would say pressure, high blood pressure, and then diabetes. But as you drink that water every morning, as soon as you wake up, man, I mean, you go to the bathroom first, but when you get back in the kitchen, instead of eating something heavy, hit those glasses of water. Right away when you drink that first cup of water, especially if it's, you can have it any way you like it, cold, room temperature, kind of warm, everybody's different, right? But the first cup, it brings that first level of hydration into you from sleeping all night, sweating at night, moving around at night, not, all that. The second glass, it doubles that hydration. So now your limbs, if you woke up with them being a little bit stiff, now they starting to get a little bit more fluid. The third glass, if you want to take the third glass, now you're giving yourself the shot of energy. So that as you start moving around and you may work up a little sweat or whatever the case may be, you don't automatically lose all the water that you just put in. I'm telling you, these things I'm reading are very exciting and just so simplistic. And I'm going to continue to share, but I really just want to work on us, really sitting down and concentrating on us as black women, from like working on our skin, meditation for our minds, thinking about the foods and the water we need to put in our bodies to stay healthy. So that even if we have a stressful job where, like mine, you going into work and people are literally trying to sabotage you, you have something else to fall back on to help support you through all that. All right, black women, I'm about to take my shower and call it a night. But be blessed, be well. And I know I'm going to sound like a crazy hippie for a while, but it's just because I'm going through a different growth period, and I'd like to take you along on my journey. All right? Good night.